You are listening to the Nightly News Podcast, the voice of the Knights.
Welcome, everybody, to the Nightly News Podcast. This is Professor Paul Miller, and I am so honored to be joined by one of our favorite guests. It would be the director of the Center of Career Services and Development, Steve Hassinger. Steve, welcome back to the podcast.
Thank you, Paul. It's always a pleasure to be on the podcast.
Well, and of course, we're also being joined by our general education work study and the Nightly news correspondent. The big news show will be coming up on the final podcast of the term, and it'll be Noah's second time around doing the news show. So, Noah, of course, thank you for joining us, and it's a pleasure, and you've done such amazing work thus far on everything, so great to have you here.
Thank you so much. I love being on this podcast, and I can't wait for the adventures to come.
Well, the adventures will continue as long as you are willing.
I love adventures.
To do it. All right, well, we're talking about two big events here coming up here in September. The first of which will be the Business Partner of the Year Breakfast, one of the biggest annual events our career services team orchestrates. That will be on September 12th, a Thursday, from 8:30 to 10:30 a.m. We'll get into a little bit more about that. And the very next day, Steve, we are actually partnering with the Harrisburg Senators on an event that they are doing, a networking event that's going to take place on September 13th, starting at 3:30. And then as part of the whole soiree that's going on with the Harrisburg Senators, we'll get to stay and watch the game afterward, which is one of their final games of the season, I might add.
Way.
So two big events in 2 days coming up, Steve. First of all, how are we looking here with these back-to-back events in the same week on your end?
It's going to be a busy week, but we thrive on that. You know, it's all about the networking, and we've got a great opportunity to here to network on back-to-back days.
Well, I want to start off with the Business Partner of the Year Breakfast again, Thursday, September 12th from 8:30 to 10:30, and we'll share all the information on how you can sign up. But let's talk a little bit about the event itself. It's something that, ever since I have been here, has been one of the major events that you've undertaken every year. So talk to us a little bit more about what is the Business Partner of the Year Breakfast, and we can talk a little bit about who that business partner is going to be.
Sure. Believe it or not, this is going to be our 20th annual Business Partner of the Year Breakfast. Now, 20 years ago, it looked a lot different than it does now. I think 20 years ago, we probably had about 30 people that came to that event. We honored Sato Travel as our Business Partner of the Year because they hired a lot of our travel and tourism students, a program which we don't currently have. But the event has evolved, and we've added to it. It's still a 2-hour event, but we've changed the agenda and the types of things that we do during the breakfast. So this is different than a job fair. A job fair, you kind of come in, you wander from table to table, talk to different employers and so forth. This is a sit-down event with an agenda associated with it. We will have some welcoming remarks from President Dr. Linda Fedrizzi-Williams, and then we'll introduce our keynote speaker. And our keynote speaker this year is George Book, who is the president and CEO of the West Shore Chamber of Commerce. And then after the keynote, we will have our town meeting. And that's really one of my favorite events of the year because it's an opportunity for us to learn from each other. So there will be students, there will be faculty and staff, there will be employers and community members, there will be some alumni present. And we're just going to toss out questions around the theme for the morning event, and we're going to let people chime in. And the theme for this year's event centers around hiring the workforce of the future, early talent engagement and strategies for hiring, and what students now should be knowing and thinking about when they're competing for those jobs that everybody wants to get. And then obviously we will recognize our Business Partner of the Year. We also added something new a couple years ago where we now recognize 2 Interns of the Year as well.
Oh, okay.
So 2 students will be recognized for their accomplishments on their internships. And then just last year we added just another feature related to internships, and that is a Site Coordinator of the Year. So we're going to recognize 2 Site Coordinators of the Year as well. And then, of course, it culminates with our Business Partner of the Year. And the Business Partner of the Year is a little bit different this year. Usually, it's a company with one particular office. This year, it's actually a whole county. It's Dauphin County because they have had at least 5 interns over the past year.
Wow.
In different offices and aspects of county government. They have also hired many, many people throughout the years. I ran a report from the last 10 years, and at no less than 15 different offices throughout the county had hired Central Penn graduates to work in them.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
It really is. And I did ask Steve before we started if it was okay that we announce it. It's not a surprise, so Dauphin County is aware that they are going to win this award. So obviously, when you think of the Business Partner of the Year, it's somebody who has worked very closely with our students and providing them opportunities. To your point, also employment opportunities as well. Typically, how do you go about the criteria process to name that Business Partner of the Year? What are some of the factors that come into play?
Yeah, that's changed over the years, too. I mean, there was a time when we had a kind of a list and we scored, based on did they do this, did they do that, et cetera. It's really evolved and changed over the years. And it seems like every year, while we have a lot of business partners that work very closely with us, it seems like every year one of those names seems to rise to the top. Like I mentioned with Dauphin County this year, even though we've worked closely with them for a long time, we started talking about it and we said, wow, they've had 5 different interns throughout the past year in 5 different areas, throughout the county. I mean, they've hired people from corporate communications. They've hired people from accounting, from our criminal justice programs, from our business programs, certainly, pretty much just about any program that we offer here at Central Penn. So as we were kind of talking about, Kristen Fike and I are the ones who make the ultimate decision, but we do solicit input throughout the college. And Dauphin County just really rose to the top for us this year.
Well, we want to wish and thank very much Dauphin County and wish them a great congratulations for being a part of this. Now, the next question I have for you, Stephen, I want to bring Noah in here on this, is for a student, what are some of the benefits to this? Because generally speaking, it seems like this is more of a recognition for some of our community partners. How can students benefit from this? Or maybe a better question is, what is the opportunity for students to do their own networking throughout this event? And then again, I'll bring Noah in here in just a moment.
I was actually going to ask the exact same question.
Yeah, so the event starts at 8:30, but from 8:30 to 9 is just a nice big buffet breakfast. Right. So during that time, students could come in, 8 students could sit at a table, with each other, or they could mix and mingle, at tables with other business partners, which I think would be a good thing, a good opportunity to be able to network, right? There's certainly an opportunity after the event ends as well to be talking with employers. So you'll have an opportunity during the event to identify who different employers are. But I think the best way that students can really make a name for themselves and kind of get the word out there is during that town meeting portion. And we've had that happen in the past, where students have been willing to put themselves out there, raise their hand and say that they wanted to chime in with an answer to a question.
Oh.
And employers have been very impressed by some of the things that our students have added to that discussion. And we've actually had employers approach students after the event and say, hey, we'd like to talk to you. We think we might have some opportunities for you down the road.
So Noah, one of the things I think Steve's talking about is during that breakfast time, sure, our go-to is, hey, let's find some people we know, let's sit down for breakfast with them, just, catch up maybe, which, is perfectly fine. But what Steve is actually suggesting is that you really take that time to go out of your way to talk to people who you don't know and to put yourself out there. Now, as a student, how uncomfortable is that?
That's extremely uncomfortable, especially if, there's a bunch of suits, and I don't really know if I'd want to sit at a table with a bunch of random people that I don't know that look very intimidating, and I could possibly screw up my entire chance of getting a job just by sitting at that table, because what if you sit the wrong way? What if you don't use the proper manners? What if they look at you, they don't like the way you're dressed, Or it just could be awkward because you just don't know these people, and they're all looking at you, like you're all judging you.
So you're saying that for you, it's the difficulty is not being 100% comfortable in those particular types of situations.
100%, and I'm pretty sure a lot of other college students feel the exact same way, maybe even worse. For me, I don't know if I would sit at that table just because it's a little strange. I mean, I'd definitely add to the conversation, be like, hey, what about your financial gain or something like that? But I'm not going to sit with them because it's just kind of weird. It's like putting yourself into a friend group you're not a part of.
Well, but I would also point out that part of this whole endeavor is to put people outside of their comfort zone if you want to take advantage of it.
100% of that. Yes.
And
yes.
so that's just something that I want to consider, and as sort of a PSA to any students who might be out there, to take advantage. I understand it's not necessarily the most comfortable thing in the world, and frankly, I remember the first time, Steve, I walked into a Pennies conference with you.
Right.
And it was extremely uncomfortable for me.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to gravitate with Steve and Kristen. This year, of course, I've been there for a few years. I've gotten to know some people. This year, we decided to take that exact opposite approach, that we were forcefully going to separate ourselves, not only for any other reason except we wanted to expose every session that the panel had to offer. And to do that, we had to split up. And so I think it can be difficult. I certainly understand, Noah, where you're coming from. The only thing I would say is part of developing a network and networking is talking to people you don't know and expanding the people who you do know. Because, Noah, I'll kind of leave it at this. If you don't talk to them, your network doesn't grow.
Yeah, your network isn't going to grow, and if you don't talk to them, obviously you aren't going to gain anything from the event except for free food and a little bit more knowledge about your local businesses and communities, which still does help, but I get what you're coming from, and it's 100% valid. We should reach out to them. I just saying it is kind of awkward sitting with a bunch of old guys you don't know. And also, I had one more question for Steve before we transfer to the next thing. Can you elaborate more on like the town hall part of the meeting? You said it was like a good part for students to gain something. What is that?
Yeah, so there's going to be questions. I will moderate that. So I will stand up front and I will toss out a question. I'll give you an example, and I'm not saying that this is going to be one of the questions because I haven't developed the questions yet. But they will all center around that theme of early talent acquisition, right? So when employers are looking to hire new college graduates, right? So one question might be, how are you or are you using AI in your hiring process now, right? And so probably Mrs. Fike and maybe somebody else will walk around the room. They'll have a cordless microphone. People can put up their hands and, they can chime in and answer that question. I will also make sure that I have at least one or two questions that are really geared towards students, trying to seek some student input. And I won't call on anybody. I would never do that in this type of a forum, right? But I'll put a question out there, maybe like, students, when you're thinking about the place that you want to go to work after college, what's important for you? In what kind of company are you looking for? Right? So I might throw out a question like that and open it up to students. What I usually find is that getting that first person to kind of put their hand up, be a little bit shy, is the hardest part. Once we get that first person, other people feel more comfortable and they kind of chime in. And then the hardest part of this meeting is usually ending it because I really like to stick to the schedule, right?
Oh, boy.
And I'm like, okay, we can only take one more person and there's 5 hands up, right? Because everybody wants to join in. So students should not feel like they're going to be put on the spot, if they come to this. And, if it's a student coming in their first time, they may just want to sit there, the whole time and just kind of take it in and get more comfortable and see what this is all about. And then they might feel more comfortable coming back next year, coming back the second time.
I wanted to know, this whole thing, you have to schedule beforehand to go, like you need a ticket. So new, incoming students who just got accepted or it's their first term, would they still be able to go?
Yes. Any student can go, and any student can go for free. Businesses are paying $20 a ticket to come to this event, but students, faculty, and staff can come for free. And the way that they register is they go to, it's kind of a funny name, but the website is called Give Butter, Butter. So it's givebutter.com. And if you do just the /2024. So givebutter.com /BPOY 2024.
All right.
And I'll put that along with it as well. Hey, and I think a good transition here, and we can continue to talk about early talent acquisition with our next piece, but last year's Business Partner of the Year.
What, you mean tell you who it was?
Yeah, tell the audience who it was.
They don't know. They don't know.
Well,
I don't know.
Last year was Select Medical.
Okay, and in previous years prior to that,
Harrisburg Senators
had the Harrisburg Senators.
That's pretty cool.
So as we think back, the Senators have been a great partner with the school for many years. Of course, we play our home games at FNB Field. They have worked. One of our interns right now is working over with the Senators. Yeah. So that was certainly a well-received award. So we heard from one of the fine folks at the Senators a few months ago that they were planning something over at the stadium. This is something very similar to something, if you have followed the nightly news with any regularity, that we have done with the Philadelphia Phillies over the past 5 or 6 years, in which they have a networking opportunity for students who are in different fields at Citizens Bank Park. So this was something that this year the Harrisburg Senators decided that they also wanted to do. This will take place on Friday, September 13th at 3:30. You will need to contact either myself or Steve Hassinger to get registered for this. And again, I'll put that information along with it. But it is another networking event, and I just want to just briefly go over. Of course, it's at the time of recording, several weeks away, but it is going to be not only members of the Harrisburg Senators, but also AAA, Members First, ARM Group, and SCNM Solutions are confirmed at this point. Several other employers are out there that are potentially going to be coming as well. Now, one of the things I think this is really unique part about this networking event is they're going to have stations. And it's sort of kind of like a job fair, kind of like a networking event, but somewhere in the middle, if you ask me, because not only are these employers all actively recruiting people, there's also going to be things like headshots, mock interviews, resume discussions, resume analysis, and there's going to be a great time for one-on-one networking that will take place after the event itself is over. So this is something that we have been very excited about. The Nightly News is going to be there in full force, as well as several other local colleges. And then, of course, when we're done, we get to catch a great game, and hopefully the weather is a nice fall, beautiful evening, and fireworks at the end of the game. So it's going to be a really fun afternoon. So again, if anyone would like to go to that, please reach out to either Steve or myself. Again, I'll put that information along with it. But back to this idea of early talent acquisition. Part of the reason I believe that all of these companies want to get involved in things like this is because, frankly, and correct me if I'm wrong, these companies want to bring in entry-level employees. They want to cultivate and see their career growth. Frankly, businesses want to keep you, for the most part, around because of how difficult and complex the hiring situation has become. So just in your general thought process, why is it so important for Central Penn to be involved? Of course, we're giving our students an opportunity to network, but maybe on a larger sense, why is it so important that we are part of this Harrisburg Senators networking event?
Yeah, well, number one, we're all about networking and building those connections as well. So a couple of those employers that you've met are not employers that I have actively been working with or have actively been recruiting at Central Penn. So it's an opportunity to get out to meet with some different employers, some different companies, to learn more about different opportunities that might be out there. And, enhancing and building those networking skills is just so important. It's costly to recruit employees. And companies do want to be successful in recruiting the right employees, and they want a good fit, and they want to keep those employees around, because every time you lose an employee and you've got to fill that position with somebody else, it's costly and it's timely to do that. So it's really important throughout their time as students here for students to become aware of the diverse range of opportunities that are out there, the different types of companies. And students also on their end want to be thinking about, as I said, the type of company that they want to work for. What is it that they're looking for? What's important to them when it comes to that job and that company, and making sure that they find the right fit as well. So all these networking opportunities are just ways to better assure that there's going to be a good fit there with that position after you graduate.
And in the baseball nature, this is a heck of a doubleheader, back-to-back days for people who are going to be attending both of these. Noah, I want to come to you with the last question here. I know that when I had you for class freshman year, one of the very first things on one of the very first days of class that you even had on this campus, because I remember CPEC was very early in the fall term. Tell me about what it was like the first time, your first class, your first week of school going to a job fair.
It was pretty crazy. I'm not gonna lie, because it was the first day of class, first day in college, kind of first week ish. I'm like, holy crap, is this what college is gonna be like? This is cool. Because I don't know about a lot of people, they probably don't like to get off their butt and go places, but I like going out. I don't like being in the same place constantly every single day. It gets boring, and it can affect my learning process, because I'll just start getting tired of it, But the job fair was really cool. I got to meet a lot of cool companies, and there were a lot of nice employers there. Some of them were, more in my range than others. Like some was childcare. They even had veterans there, like veteran care stuff there.
Well, yeah, and in most job fairs, there are going to be a variety of different companies, much like the networking event. Well, I want to come to you, Noah, for the final word.
Okay.
I want you to talk about, you've had some experience doing some networking. You've been to a couple job fairs. If a student is going to a job fair for the first times, give them some advice. So, for instance, if they're going to this Senator's networking event or they're coming to Business Partner of the Year breakfast, what are some tips that you can give to them to make the most out of it?
I think the first tip that I would give anyone going to anything career-based that a lot of people seem to forget, and even they look at me weird when I do it, is just dress nice. Like, dress professionally, dress like a suit and tie. If you're a lady, wear a nice dress, or you could wear a suit too. I mean, some suits you all can pull it off way better than I can. But go professionally and have some questions in mind for your employer. Know what you want when you go to that event. I went to the job fair. I dressed nice. I got some new clothes, actually, for that specific event. And I went looking for a specific job. I wanted something in audio, radio, or just broadcasting. So I found WITF, and I researched them and what I wanted to do. And I think I kind of want to work there when I graduate, too. But.
That's awesome, and we have some connections over there. So I do just want to point out that, obviously the Business Partner of the Year breakfast, you can within reason, dress how you like. I would admit a minimum of a business casual. But if you'd like to dress nicely, I encourage that. I will say that the Senators event is strictly business casual, mainly because it's going to be outdoors, and we are going to be at a baseball game. So, a polo, a nice pair of pants, or something to represent yourself well, but I don't know that a suit and tie for the Senators event is probably going to be.
I have a question about that Senators event. You mentioned about how there's going to be like a job fair. Is that going to be on City Island next to the field, or is it going to be in the field?
It will actually take place in the giant pavilion along the first baseline.
Oh.
So if any of you are coming and you enter, you will make your way over to the giant pavilion. It's along right. Well, it's sort of at the intersection
between
between
the arcade is, right?
First base and right field. No, that's before you even come in.
Oh, okay.
So, well, Noah, I always appreciate your perspective. So thank you so much for sharing your thoughts and your experiences. You never know. That could, your advice here could be all the difference between somebody getting a career position and not.
And don't just take all of what I said when, you should research some more, because I only said two things. There's way more that you need to go into a job fair or a career-inspired event that you need to stay prepared. You need to be vigilant. You need to be ready if an employer approaches you to just be up on your feet and answer any questions they might ask you. You just gotta. And
doing your research too, I think, is a very key thing. So again, I'll put along the confirmed employers, and again, they're going to continue adding more. And Steve, I don't know that I necessarily envy you those two back-to-back days. Of course, I will be there and assist in any way I possibly can, but back-to-back networking events, I think you'll be ready for the game there once the networking is over for the evening at the Senators event.
Absolutely, but you can't get too much networking, that's for sure. It really is many times about those connections you make and the people that you know.
And Steve, one final note before we get out of here. We just moved our podcast studio. We're over here in Bollinger Hall on the first floor, and you just so happen to be the very first guest that we have had, so we want to thank you. I also want to tell everyone that we will be holding an open house in the fall, and we will be announcing more information in the coming weeks.
I look forward to that, and it's great to be the first guest in the new studio. I think everything looks great in here.
How would you rate our beautiful aesthetic on a scale of 1 to 10? Do you like our?
I'm going to give you a 9.5 because I don't think anybody's perfect.
Where's the 0.5?
Hey, we're still a work in progress. Right?
All right, we're not done yet. So we're 9.5, and we're not done yet.
And that's why we're waiting for the open house.
All right.
Well, again, September 12th, the Business Partner of the Year breakfast from 8:30 to 10:30 in the Conference Center. You can go to givebutter.com/BPOY 2024, or that link will be along with this article. Also, Friday, September 13th at 3:30, the Harrisburg Senators networking event. That will be taking place on City Island in Harrisburg at FNB Field. Of course, if you would like to go to this, please reach out to myself or Steve Hassinger. Again, we'll put that information along with it. Steve, as always, it's such a pleasure. So glad you could be the first podcast in the new studio, and looking forward to these two events.
I appreciate it. Thank you for the invitation.
And Noah, as always, I appreciate your insight from a student perspective. You continue to do great work with not only the general education work study, but with the nightly news.
Well, thank you so much, Professor. And also, thank you, Steve, for all the amazing stuff you do on campus, because I feel like a lot of these events wouldn't happen if there wasn't someone pushing for it. So thanks.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's going to do it for this episode of the Nightly News Podcast. I want to thank Noah Lopez and the director of the Center of Career Services and Development, Steve Hassinger, for joining us today. Until next time, we'll see you again on the Nightly News Podcast.
This is Andrew Hunter, Nightly News sports reporter, and you're listening to the Nightly News Podcast.
Welcome, everybody, to the Nightly News Podcast. This is Professor Paul Miller, and I'm so honored to be joined by one of my favorite guests, somebody who it seems that we have on each and every term to talk about all things Knights athletics, the Central Penn College Knights Athletic Director Kasey Hicks. Kasey, welcome back to the show.
Thank you, Paul. One of my favorite places to be. Happy to be here.
Well, and it's getting to the point where this is old hat. I mean, you're just on all the time. I mean, I remember the first couple of times you came on, you were a little pensive. Now it's just like, whatever. It's just another thing, right?
Yeah.
So we appreciate you being here. Also being joined for the first time. Is this your first podcast ever, Coach?
Correct.
Well, we are so happy to have you and have you for your first ever podcast, the coach of the Central Penn Knights women's soccer team, Coach Rudy Grubesky. Coach Grubesky, again, pleasure to have you, and hopefully this is just a fun thing to do and nothing that brings you nerves. I always hate when people come in and they're nervous. I'm like, no, nothing to be nervous about. If you say anything you don't want me to say, I'll edit it out. I mean, it's really not a problem.
Exactly. Just cut it out in post.
Yeah, and also being joined here by Nightly News, General Education Work Study, and news correspondent Noah Lopez. Noah, always, I mean, you're a recurring character at this point. Well, nonetheless, we appreciate you here. Well, one of the things that we want to talk about here is the upcoming soccer season for both the men and the women, and I want to start off just by throwing out a couple of very important dates. For the women's team, they will open up their home slate at the Skyline Sports Complex on City Island on October the 8th. Of course, as always, you can go to centralpennknights.com and check out some of these schedules. Also, for the men, they will open at home on September the 3rd at Skyline Sports Complex. That's a Tuesday afternoon. So again, you can always go to centralpennknights.com for all of the scheduling information, but we are going to highlight some of the most important contests this year. Let's start with you, Coach Grubesky. I want to start off by talking about just what an amazing season last season ended up being. Of course, during COVID and post-COVID, we unfortunately didn't field a women's soccer team. And so how did it feel to be back on that field representing Central Penn College and being out there and really playing a pretty amazing season?
Yeah, we were pretty excited to bring soccer back. I came over from another university, and Kasey gave me the opportunity to be head coach again, and we had a good group of young ladies that worked hard, and both on the field and off. But on the field, making it the ESAC championship game was
amazing,
was
by
exciting.
the way. I mean, look, I understand that it didn't quite go the way that you'd hoped, but to get back on that field after multiple years of being, without a program, really due to the aftermath of COVID, to work your way back. It's with your admission, often, several new soccer players hadn't really played much soccer in their lives to make it to the ESAC title game. What was that like for you?
Oh, it's always exciting to be in a championship game. We traveled down to Virginia. We were down 1-0 at the half. I mean, we battled. The girls battled, and then just ran out of gas late in the game, giving up 3 goals in the last 20 minutes. But it was just it's just exciting to be in a championship match, and it just makes you want to go back and try to win it the next time. So
Maybe
that's
without the
a long
rain
way.
next time, Coach. Without the rain,
Yeah.
It was a rainy, dark day that day.
And I remember, and we can talk about this a little bit more later, but I remember senior night, too, at Skyline last year. It was just a rainy mess.
Yeah.
You still have to do it in the rain? You still have to
Well,
do
yeah,
it?
They
you play
do.
soccer.
Yeah.
You play most sports in the rain. Even baseball does get played in the rain. Now, if it's a
What?
monsoon, yes,
They
they'll
don't
have
like
a delay.
cancel it or anything?
It's
Lightning and
Like in
thunder,
soccer,
they'll
it'll be
kick you out.
slippery. You're running around all the time.
That's why you wear cleats.
Well, I've actually played where the center circle was underwater.
Oh,
that's
wow.
how that's
What
how
the
the ball
heck?
was kind of floating on this
Okay.
in the center
Ball was
circle.
floating. That should call for like
So-
a pause.
So, but
I think too, Paul, just not to interrupt, but
No, please.
just I think how we kind of built it was a lot of these players wanted to be part of that legacy of bringing soccer back to Central Penn, and like I said, they did everything we asked and more. we've got a good group coming back this year, and we hope to, our kind of theme was kind of going to go above and beyond what we did last year, both on off the field with community service and the things the girls accomplished academically, winning or earning the academic award of highest GPA of any sports team here.
Which is a testament to coaching. I mean, not entirely. At the end of the day, these are people, and they have free reign to do whatever they please. They're adults, right? But I think that, to me, and I can bring Kasey in here too and see what her thoughts are. To me, that's a culture thing. Mm-hmm. To me, that's a coach that kind of sets the tone, coach, and of course your assistants as well, who set the tone for that culture that says, look, we are student-first athletes, and that what you do in the classroom is frankly more important than what we do on the field. And that, to me, means a lot, because I work with a lot of these athletes from all sports, and it's frankly pretty astounding that you were able to win that award. It's competitive.
Yeah. Well, I think it starts at the top. Kasey and Kenton, they set that tone that we want student athletes, student first. So we've focused on making sure they're doing well academically. It helped that the valedictorian for the whole school was on the women's soccer team. Trinity just did an awesome job both in the classroom and in soccer. But all the girls did well GPA wise. And another big factor is they have to stay eligible to be able to play. So we say, look, if you want to continue, you got to meet, we have the study hall requirements, and, we have success coaches that track their progress. Of course, our coaching staff works with Kasey to track their progress. And, we just keep, like you said, trying to create that culture of you're a student first and then an athlete. And they're here for the degree, let's face it. And it's just a great opportunity, for us, even though from a coaching standpoint, it might only have these girls for 1 or 2 seasons, but the way Central Penn is set up, I mean, just bringing them in, be able to do a 4-year degree in 3, and not having to create a lot of debt, and so those are some of the things that we've been trying to do recruiting wise to just try to build a program here.
Kasey, do you want to follow up on that in terms of the culture, in terms of academics?
Yeah, I think I always say, and I probably go to it too much, but my biggest thing in my role is. One of the parts that I love the most about athletics is the way that we can hold students accountable academically. Athletics has a special way to, elevate expectations, academic expectations for student athletes. There's an accountability piece that our athletes have, and that's to their coaches. Obviously to themselves, but when our coaches are bought into, pushing these students, not just on the field or on the court, but in the classroom, it makes everybody's jobs easier. We're not tracking down students for eligibility reasons. But those coaches, when they talk about it and it's a part of their everyday, motivation speeches with the team, and they're talking about it at practices, you see these kids work their way through graduation. And that's what athletics is about for me. Of course, there's the memories and the wins and the losses and the things that they'll tell their kids about one day. But athletics has a way to carry these kids through to graduation. And that's the purpose. So coaching staff buying into that and having an extension of that underneath us is so important, and we have a really good group doing that.
Yeah, no question in my mind. Coach, before we transition to a little bit more about the men's season, I did want to bring up that you also won another very prestigious award at the Activities and Athletics Banquet last year, or I guess it would have been earlier this year. Feels like last year already, earlier this year. Yeah. The Community Service Award. So beyond the field, beyond the classroom, the women's soccer team excelled in giving back to the local community, something that Noah will tell you that I talk incessantly about.
Yeah, he doesn't stop.
And we could talk a little bit more about your own career service, community service, Noah. But tell us a little bit more about what were some of the things that the women's soccer team did, and why do you think that is so important for these individuals to participate in?
Good question, Paul. I'm really proud of what the girls accomplished in that area. It's part of the Central Penn mission. In our mission statement is community service, giving back. Also, college players work. We did some youth clinics, so I mean, they getting a chance to work one-on-one with a college player was a big hit for these little ones, and also hopefully future nights there that that they can kind of see what our program's about. But I think a couple of the key ones we did. One is we collected shoes, athletic cleats and athletic shoes for a company in Texas, and they distribute those worldwide in the U.S. and around the world. Another thing that we did, we worked with a local soccer club that was trying to raise money for a soccer academy to help build a soccer academy in Zambia, Africa.
Oh, wow.
And so it was an interesting fundraiser for them. They did a crossbar challenge where people were paying to be able to shoot and try to hit the crossbar. And then I took a radar gun, and they were getting like 3 shots for $1, and all these kids were running back to their parents, give me another $1. So we, were able to raise, some money for that club to be able to send to Africa.
It's fantastic. And I've seen so many of the articles that come across in Student Central, Central Station, of course, on centralpennknights.com, and I continued success, not only just academically on the field, but in the community too.
One of the ones we just recently did, and we're going back next Tuesday, is a local food pantry.
Okay.
Helping distribute food. And interestingly, one of my players speaks Spanish. So, she's able to communicate in Spanish when people come up and are asking for certain items or have certain questions. And it's really nice because some of those girls have not only done it when our team did it, but they've consistently gone back.
That's amazing.
It's like every Tuesday from 9 to 11 when they don't have class is to go back and continue to work at that food pantry. So it's, it's a credit to them that they've bought into the community service aspects of the team culture we're trying to create.
Fantastic. And Noah, here's a great place I can bring you in here. We were just talking about the food pantry. You actually had the opportunity to volunteer at a local food pantry recently. And I mean, what did that mean to you? I know that you've shared this with me personally, but to the listeners out there, what did that experience mean to you specifically above and beyond just doing it for an assignment?
Working at a food pantry, I think my experience was a little different than most people's because I kind of already knew everyone there because they were either related to me or they somehow knew me when I was a child and I don't remember who they are. But it gives you a greater sense of self-worth. I feel like it made me feel awesome and that I was doing something that was actually genuinely helping someone else and giving them an opportunity to have some food that they probably might not even be able to afford. It also gave me like a sense of justice or like heroism in a way. I don't know if that's the right word to use for it, but I like to help people. I like to spread that joy and that feeling that you get when it's all over, and then you see people's faces. They're like, "Thank you so much." That's awesome.
And
it's the best feeling ever.
Kasey, I'm sure that you saw, we put a little bit right up about it in Student Central and Central Station. Recently, the Knights baseball team and the Nightly News Media Club, we partnered up and did a clinic with the Senior Challenger Baseball, of which I am the commissioner. We had a clinic for 13 of our athletes and met over at the Vault in Mechanicsburg. Shout out to the Vault. They graciously helped us out with that, with the space. But it was so cool to see, just like Coach Grubesky said, these athletes getting to learn from collegiate athletes and what that meant. I mean, you would have thought Kevon and Anderson were Mike Trout and Aaron Judge.
Right.
I mean, like, seriously, they were in awe of these two individuals as college athletes. And, even to a certain extent, I'm in awe of when I'm just calling the game, I'm in awe of some of the things they do, and then they see me and say hi, and they're in my class. That, to me, it really created not only this sense of community between our club and the Knights baseball team, but a sense of community to these folks' parents who often, individuals with special needs, their parents often struggle between taking care of their own responsibilities and working with their special needs children. I think this was just a great day for them to just sit back, relax, and enjoy getting to see their athletes learn skills. For instance, Anderson was teaching them how to pitch, which in our league, it's a sort of a coach pitch league. And so a few of them really were awesome pitchers, and just that confidence and that smile that they had. I mean, it's just, to Noah's point, it changes you.
Yeah.
And it makes you think so much differently. One of the things I can give you credit for is community service is such a big thing across all the sports.
Yeah.
How do you help to instill that culture here with our athletics?
Community service has been something that I believe was a staple of mine growing up as an athlete. I believe it does so much on so many different levels. So it's something that I challenge coaches with. At the end of each season, we have evaluation meetings. And, of course, we go over the X's and O's. We go over, our students, our population. And if community service isn't something that they have, shown or they haven't been engaged in enough, it's a challenge of mine every year. I most recently challenged men's soccer. They got to get out there. You got to be out there more. This is part of what being a student athlete is about. We talk about it when I'm on here a lot. But again, when you meet some of these student athletes 10 years down the road, those are the stories they're going to tell you. They're not going to talk about, a time they missed a goal or, missed a winning shot. They're going to talk about these memories that they have in the community, being these mentors to the youth. And that's my favorite time to see our athletes in action. Of course, I love the games. Of course, I love seeing us win. But my favorite time is when they're in the community with the youth. So it's a personal challenge for me. It's a staple of what my childhood and my student athlete journey was, and I'm happy to see it carry over to our teams.
And again, I'm sure Noah's heard this ad nauseum, but to me, why I incorporate community service into the classroom, in addition to Coach Grubesky, this is one of our core values here at Central Penn, is because I do see the value of it in terms of building a network, in terms of understanding civic responsibility. And I'll end with this. Everybody got a really good laugh because Addie hit a line drive that hit me directly in the stomach. And I have a huge bruise.
It didn't heal yet?
No, it was like 2 weeks
funny.
ago.
And of course it was Addie.
Yeah.
That's great.
So how's it
everybody
healed?
got a really nice laugh after Professor Miller taking a line drive, but fortunately... It
was worth it.
Did you fall over? Did you
It
get a
was-
fallout? Like, knockout.
I was fine.
Okay.
But it's just a good story for everybody to remember.
Yeah.
But what you and Noah were saying, and Casey too, was I think the players get more out of it than the athletes that they're working with, or like we did a session with West Shore Connect group that's on campus.
Sure.
And they are like some of our biggest fans. And in talking to Sherry, their mentor, she said now they'll see me and say, "Hi, coach." They'll see players. They now have more friends on campus just by us working with them in a session. So I think we get more out of it. I used to coach Special Olympics, and my players would be like, they got way more out of it than just helping than the Special Olympics kids did. But
I had Addie and Bashir on before they graduated, and I asked them what their number one best experience was, and Addie said that when he got to do the PA announcing at the baseball game and being on the field, that was his best memory of 3 years here, and it's something that he still talks about.
It's a pretty cool thing to do.
The impact that our athletics teams could have and do have. I don't say could. What I'm saying is that they do have, but the potential for future nights to have on the community, it's just unbelievable. I do want to take the last part of the show and talk a little bit more about the men's team. The men's team, unfortunately, have lost senior leader Andrew Hunter. Of course, we still love Andrew, but I understand Andrew will be out on the field, not in a playing capacity, of course, but still be assisting in some way. Do you mind sharing a little bit more about that?
That's right. So Andrew obviously was our starting goalie last season, but more importantly than soccer, he was one of my all-time best student workers in athletics.
And Nightly News Vice President, potential future Hall of Famer.
Exactly. So it was a tough pill to swallow when he was getting ready to graduate, and I said, I'm going to try to keep you around as long as I can. So we do have him coming back in a game day manager role. It's a little part-time contract position.
Holy cow.
But he will be kind of overseeing all the equipment needs and overseeing our student workers out at the fields this year and helping to maintain that game day flow.
And essentially, I know maybe not on the books, but a de facto assistant coach. I mean, he still knows a lot of these guys. He's, if nothing else, providing mentorship. I don't want to put words in anybody's mouth, and I know he's going to be busy doing his thing, but he's going to be talking to those people. He's going to be, motivating them and encouraging them to give their all. And Andrew, the one thing I do want to say about Andrew, because I don't want to get too far off track, he is, without question, the two different people. One on the field, one in the class, and I mean, his intensity on the field, it's literally like a light switch. And I saw that up close and personal when I did photography last year at senior night. And I knew it was such a special night for him, and the intensity. Because there were some times I was hanging around behind the goal trying to get some good action shots of him. It was a sight to see.
I remember seeing that the first time he played. I was like, this is not the Andrew that I know, because
right?
he's off the field. He's like so gentle and kind and warm, and and then you get him on the field, and he's this very intense. Yes, he
He's
is.
got an alter ego.
I'll be honest. That's probably one of the best descriptions.
The Hulk?
Yeah,
What?
Yes.
He's Bruce Banner when he's not on
Yes.
the field, and he turns into the Hulk when he gets on there.
100%.
Hulk smash goals.
See, you know sports.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah, I do. I saw the World Cup. Cristiano Ronaldo.
Well, I do want to take the time just to highlight some of the big games that I want you to mark on your calendar. Again, of course, please go to centralpennknights.com, click on men's and women's soccer for the schedules and all of the details about when you can see the Knights in action starting here. The seasons start in August. The men's season starts in August, the ladies in September. But I will say there are plenty of opportunities to see our Knights out at Skyline Sports Complex on City Island. So 2 big games that I really, really want to focus on. First and foremost, during homecoming weekend. So the big homecoming weekend, we have a doubleheader taking place on Friday, October 18th at Skyline, starting off at 5 o'clock against Bucks County Community College for the ladies and Bucks County Community College for the gentlemen at 7 o'clock. Let's hope it's a little drier than last year.
That would be nice.
But first of all, anyone who's listened to the show or pays any attention to Knights athletics knows Bucks County Community College, our #1 rival. Is that what went into the thought process of getting them to come play that game?
Conference rival. I think it's going to be a fun homecoming night. Our teams are going to be really hyped up to get out there and beat Bucks. And I know Bucks is going to want to come in and ruin our homecoming, but we're not going to let that happen.
How much are they our rival? How many times have we played against them?
I mean, the last, 3 seasons in baseball, and of course, basketball, some of the best games I've been a part of calling, we played against
Were they
Bucks.
like really close games?
We always,
Typically.
we always play them. I don't want to say always, but most of the time the games are very, very close and very, very intense.
Wow.
And what's even better is when you talk to any of the players, they are very cognizant of this rivalry.
So they know about it too.
Yeah.
I was about to say, like, what if they don't think
this
of us
isn't
that way?
something that we just made up.
Yeah, no.
If anything,
this
it's
is a real thing.
Yeah, if anything, it's perpetuated by the
They're
players.
arch enemies.
Yes. So
Oh, yeah.
again, we want to make sure that's Friday of homecoming weekend. That's October 18th. 5 o'clock for the ladies, 7 o'clock tentative. Of course, there's, it's a doubleheader, so depending on how long the first game goes against Bucks County. And then last but not least, I do want to highlight the men's senior night, which will take place on Wednesday, October 23rd at Skyline, taking on Penn State, New Kensington. So that's another day, of course. We will have a couple of seniors on the men's team, so please come out and see them. And the best thing about these games, Kasey, they're free.
They are free.
There's concessions available.
Yeah.
I mean, you literally cannot do better in this day and age. I mean, heck, it's $20 to go to the movies anymore, you know? So it's...
What?
Yeah,
I went to see Deadpool and Wolverine for like 10.
Okay. Well, you might have gotten the matinee showing, but...
Oh, no, I got the reclining seats too.
Well, that doesn't mean it's not a matinee show.
Oh.
You get a student ticket. Not everybody can get a student
I didn't get a student ticket.
Oh.
So, but before we close up today, do you just want to talk about what Coach Osborne's team's doing, some of the maybe new folks that are coming, maybe some of the returners who are coming? Let's talk a little bit more about the men's team.
Yeah, I mean, men's soccer is coming out this year, ready to reclaim that ESAC championship. So we talked about the women making it to the ESAC championship game last year. Our men did the same thing. And that also did not end the way they wanted, nor the way anybody expected it to. So our men's soccer team are coming back, led by some of the returners in Dylan Long and Blake Geiserman, Ali Korkatovich. They're coming out here ready to lead this group and kind of reclaim that ESAC championship opportunity. And Coach Osborne has been a tremendous recruiter.
The team is huge and lots of freshmen.
This year is probably the biggest roster, I would say, in Central Penn soccer history. I don't even know what the freshman count is at, but probably over half of his roster right now is incoming freshmen. Which speaks to, his ability to get out there and recruit, but also his ability to create a program that people believe in and want to be a part of. So I'm excited to see the men back out on the field. Coach Osborne, I know, has worked hard to build this program, and let's give him a shout out. I always tell him he drives me nuts, and he's one heck of a diva. But he is the returning Conference Coach of the Year, as well as USCA National Coach of the Year honors, which is really recommendable.
Unbelievably impressive.
Yeah.
Well, opening day, at least the home opener, will take place Tuesday, September 3rd at Skyline. Keep in mind the homecoming game that's on the doubleheader that's on Friday, October 18th, and then the senior night is Wednesday, October 23rd for the men. One final thing, Kasey, I wanted to give a shout out. We are doing streaming this year again. It will be just a little bit different. So do you want to share with the listeners how they might go about finding these broadcasts when they begin, when the season starts?
Definitely, yeah. So all of our home games will be live streamed via the VO technology. So I'm really excited for the quality of our streaming to improve this year, and I know our coaches are looking forward to using those technologies to help teach and work with their students. But anybody can log into the VO Live. It's an app you can get on your phone or computer. VO Live, and then you'll want to search for Central Penn College Athletics, and all of our live stream games will come up right on there. So all of our games will be live streams through VO, and we're hoping that we can, reach some families who are further away that can't make the teams, and allow our teams to use those live footage after the game to continue to improve and grow. So.
And hey, all we can say is every year our goal, at least from a broadcast standpoint, is to continue to show improvement. That's what we look forward to with soccer. Well, thank you all so much for being here today. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you. We're also very excited about the soccer team. And Coach Grubesky, thank you so much for being on your first podcast.
Well, thanks for inviting me, and nice to be in your new studio. And again, appreciate the opportunity to talk about the young ladies on our team and my assistant coaches and our whole athletic department. I mean, we appreciate the support we get from faculty, staff here. So thanks again.
And looking forward to being out there on the field with you this year, checking out a couple games. And Kasey, as always, hey, we got to have you back next term because we got to talk basketball.
Hey, who would have thought I'd be back next term?
Hey, we got to have you here. We got to know what's going on in sports. I mean, frankly, the Nightly News and our Central Penn Athletics have become intertwined over the past couple of years, so we got to keep people in the know.
This is one of my favorite things to do. So you give me a date and I will be here.
Of course. Yeah. And Noah, thank you so much for contributing. I know maybe sports isn't necessarily your forte.
Yeah, it's not really my deck of cards.
But Noah, you are getting better at integrating yourself into the podcast, which isn't not an exact science. So you're doing an excellent job. So keep it up.
I wanted to ask Kasey before we end it. That new video program, I noticed that I've spectated that the team, like the players, they like to rewatch the games. Will you be able to rewatch the games after?
Definitely. Yeah, so we'll be able to upload it to our actual VO account, and then the coaches will be able to take those links to use it with the students.
That's VIO?
VEO. VO.
Yep, and I'll put more information about how we can get logged in to these games. Well, again, thank you all so much for taking the time to join us today. Special thanks to Athletic Director Kasey Hicks. Kasey, again, it's always a pleasure.
Agreed. Same. Likewise, Paul. I appreciate everything you guys do in the Nightly News. I say it every time, but I mean it. We are elevated because of you guys, and we're grateful for the partnership we have with you.
Looking forward to another great year. And Coach Grubesky, hopefully this podcast was everything you imagined it would be. We appreciate your time here.
Well,
today.
You made it very relaxing. You're a great host, and that was a good co-host. And nice having my boss here to help me out when I need it, too.
Well, in fairness, we are coming very close to episode number 200.
What episode is this one?
This is, I believe, 196. Of course, you're putting me on the spot. And so I will say, if I can't figure out how to host a podcast by now, I'm in the wrong line of work.
Uh-oh, that would be bad.
So, and of course, Noah Lopez, thank you for joining us again on the Nightly News Podcast. All right, well, that's going to do it for this episode of the Nightly News Podcast. I want to thank women's soccer coach here at Central Penn, Coach Rudy Grubesky. We want to thank the athletic director, Kasey Hicks, and news correspondent, Noah Lopez. That's going to do it for this episode of the Nightly News Podcast. We'll see you again next time.